Hey there, this is the Top Floor Please podcast, where women in leadership rise together. I'm your host, Melissa McCormick, executive coach and founder of the Grace and Salt Leadership Academy. This is your space to find clarity, grow in confidence, and lead with bold authenticity. Whether you're navigating the boardroom, building your team, or stepping into new territory, you're not alone. Let's talk real challenges, real growth, and real leadership, because the top floor isn't just a place, it's a mindset. All right, let's get started.
All right, all right, all right. Can I say that? I don't know if Matthew McConaughey has trademarked that term, but I do love it. Welcome back to the Top Floor Please podcast. I'm Melissa McCormick, the owner of Grace and Salt Leadership Academy. And today we are talking about a shift that can make or break your leadership path, right? So we're talking about moving from tactical to strategic thinking. A couple podcasts ago, we did kind of touch on this topic a little bit, and I think it's important to speak about it again. So that was in the red flags. The red flags podcast, which again, I think it was 2 ago. But anyway, oftentimes I hear ladies will say, or bosses, quite frankly, will say, well, she's a workhorse, right? She's getting all the things done. She's super reliable, very dependable. Like I trust her. Like I can go on, my business trip, or I can go and take an afternoon off, and I don't have to really worry about things because she is doing all the things. And I know whatever challenge comes up, she's going to be able to figure it out, or she's going to contact me. Like she knows how I think. She's amazing, and she's my go-to person. Is that you? That was me. That was totally me. And I did all those things. And then I applied for different jobs, and I was promoted to supervisor. And then I was promoted to some international finance, but I was always in middle management, just kind of, hanging out in this holding pattern, wanting to do more, wanting to break through, if you will. But it never happened because I was too busy doing all the things. I was too tactical, and I was not strategic. And so at that point was when I realized that there was a ceiling. Now, at the time, I thought that the ceiling, the glass ceiling, was put there by the men, that the guys in the organization like were holding me down. And this was, you can't go any further because you're a woman, or you're good at typing, or you're good at making coffee, or the copies, or whatever. I did not realize that I was the reason why I even experienced the ceiling. And so the story goes, which is the truth, but the story goes that I um, I realized one day that in manufacturing, it totally is a man's world, and no different from the organization that I worked at. And I wanted to do more, walking in the doors in 1987, I knew that I wanted to be a vice president of international sales. And I thought that if I worked super duper hard, that I eventually would work my way up. I did not know that I needed to raise my hand and that I needed to ask for what I wanted. I didn't know that. I learned that the hard way. And so that's part of the reason why I do what I do today, is to help ladies understand that you need to ask. You don't ask, you don't get. So anyway, I called my mom one day and said, I was very mad. And I said, why didn't you tell me? And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me that there was a glass ceiling? I hit the glass ceiling. I'm there. And she surprised me to no end. She absolutely the weirdest response ever. She said, congratulations, Melissa, that's fantastic. You hit the glass ceiling. I'm like, what's so fantastic about hitting the glass ceiling? Yes, mom, I hit it. She goes, because you hit it. You made it to the glass ceiling. And now I want you just to keep hitting it and hitting it and hitting it until you break it. If I would have told you that the glass ceiling existed, you never would have reached it, because you would have had limited beliefs. You never would have known that you could go through it, because it would have been like, well, this is my place, so I'm just going to stay in my place in middle management and not worry about anything else. But because you hit it, now you can break through it. So I want you to continue to push and push and push. And I want to continue to have those discussions with your boss on what is it that you want to do. And so that's what I did. But it dawned on me that we've been blaming this glass ceiling thing on men for decades and decades and decades. And yes, is there some truth to that? Probably. Yeah, I'm sure there is some truth to it. But the other truth to it is that we are the ones that have limited our own beliefs and we have limited it. So now, when I talk to ladies about the glass ceiling and do you feel it at your organization, my question is not, where is it? My question is, can you break through it? Like in your organization, is the culture so strong that women are not allowed in the executive room? Because if that's the case, then you need to find a new organization. But if it's not the case, and the reason that you're really suffering from this glass ceiling is because of you and not because of anybody else, like if you actually talked to your boss and told them, this is what I want to do, are you scared of what that means? Maybe it's because of your own fear. Okay. So the one way to break through that glass ceiling, if you're there, like if you're there and you know your organization is solid and you want to stay there, but you want to get to that next level, then listen up, because we're going to be talking about tactical to strategic. Now, granted, this is a longer talk, but I've got, let's see, what do I have? 4 tips that I want to share with you today on how to start thinking strategically versus tactical. Okay, that's what we're typically conditioned. And when I say we, I mean women. Typically, that's how we're conditioned to think and how we're conditioned to work, is to do all the things. And quite frankly, we like it, right? We like being in control. We like being the go-to person. We like having people come to us, even though we complain about it. Imagine life without you answering your phone and being able to help somebody out. We're servants. And so we're constantly wanting to help and wanting to serve. That's our nature. That's how we're raised. And so now I want to teach you, or I want to share with you some tips on how do I become strategic, because that's the only way that you can make it to the next level. You must master strategic thinking. So, okay, so here's a couple tips. The first one is I want you to start with the why. So don't just ask what needs to get done. I want you to ask, why does this matter to the business? Strategic leaders always ask, they always ask they tie the actions to the outcomes. Okay, so they want to tie the actions to the outcomes. So they go back a bit. They raise up and look at a 30,000 foot level at the organization. And if you don't have, like, your role isn't one where you can really impact or influence the organization, I want you to look at where you are. I want you to look at your circle of influence. Where is it in the organization? What does that circle of influence look like that you can influence? Because that's where you start. That's where you start. And I want you to take the time, like literally schedule it on your calendar. This is my strategic time. Now, you need to schedule a time that is not the busyness, because you will never get to it. Schedule a time. Is that Friday mornings? Is that Friday afternoons? Is that Monday mornings? Is that Monday afternoons? Is that Thursday afternoons? What does that look like? Is it at lunchtime? Where do you schedule the time for you to be strategic in your circle of influence? Don't waste your time thinking strategically for the business if you have no influence over that, because you are going to be frustrated and you're going to frustrate others. So I want you to start with your circle of influence right now. I want you to start with your role. I want you to, if you are a director or a manager of a department, I want you to start with your department. If you don't have any managerial or supervisory responsibilities, then start with your role. What does that look like? Why does this matter to the business? When you're looking at your desk and you're going, okay, I'm doing this activity today. Why does this matter to the business? I had a boss years and years ago, like right early on in my career, who used to say, Melissa, the reports that you run, fabulous. Why do they matter? Stop doing them and see if anybody asks you where it is. Because if they don't ask, it's not worth it. Stop doing it. Stop wasting your time. So I did that. And some people said, hey, I haven't seen that report. Where is it at? Is it, are we going to get it soon? And others I didn't hear from. So I stopped doing whatever that was that I didn't need to do. Okay. So just a tip. So start with the why. Why does this matter to the business? And take a look at your your activities during the day and ask that question. Okay, number 2, this one's difficult for me personally because I don't play chess. But this one is think 3 moves ahead. This is hard for me. When you're offered a task, ask, what will this impact downstream? Who needs to know and what comes next? Now I can do that, but I don't think automatically. I don't think 3 moves ahead, like we're playing chess. So that's why this one can tend to be a little bit difficult for me. So maybe it's a little bit difficult for you. But when I break it down to these 3 components, I think it makes a little bit more sense. And that is, what will this impact downstream? So when you're making a decision, when you're doing something, think about it downstream. Like, when I do this way, how could I do it better so that the person downstream, it makes it easier for their job? Maybe I need to contact that person and say, hey, I'm just trying to look at, at this task, and I want to make it better for you. If I change this form in this way, would it help you do your job better or easier or whatever, right? So just be thinking about that. What will it impact downstream? And then who needs to know? So communication, I'm a communication coach. Communication is critical. Who needs to know about this? Like, if you're going to make a change to something, make sure that all the stakeholders know and just say, hey, this is what the change is. This is why we're doing it. And we're doing it to help you, right? And make sure that they're involved in that decision-making process and in that process improvement process. And then what comes next? Okay, so great. So we're going to do this, right? What will this impact downstream? Who needs to know? And then what's the next thing? Like, what comes next? Start to be thinking about that. So start with your why. Okay, why does this matter to the business? And then I want you to think, what will this impact downstream? Think about it from that perspective. And it could even be either internally or externally. The third one is stop doing things others can do. Ooh, this is a good one. Stop doing things others can do. Okay, strategic leaders delegate the how so they can focus on the what and the why. So I want you to conduct a time audit and delegate low leverage tasks. Now, it's easy for me to say delegation. It actually isn't easy for me to say that because we are a team of 3. So it's challenging for me to delegate things because I have a team of 3. Now, it may be hard for you to delegate things because you don't have a team. So how do I delegate it? Well, I'm going to tell you. I want you to take a look at your role. I want you to take a look at your task. I want you to take a look at what you do. And if there's anything that you do that doesn't belong in your role, like somebody else should be doing it, I want you to work on delegating that to the person that it belongs to. Just a quick story, when I was promoted to supervisor of the international department, so that was the export department. So we were responsible for shipping equipment and spare parts overseas. And when I was promoted to the supervisor of that department, I noticed that there were a lot of things that we were doing. And for example, one thing, now I'm really dating myself with this story, but the one thing that we did was the service department would write out messages that the export department ladies needed to type on a form and then send it by fax machine. Okay, so this is back in the days of fax, F-A-X, like we didn't email or anything like that. We faxed things. And so the service department would write it out, they'd give it to us, and then we would type them on a fax form, and then we'd send the message to the distributor's service person. And then when the answer came back, we would then deliver it over there. So when I became the supervisor, I said, wait, what? First of all, why does it need to be typed? These service people can write very clearly, doesn't need to be typed. And second of all, why do we have to send it? Just because the fax machine physically is in our office doesn't mean that we need to send it. So I want to say I want to say that I did it graciously, but honestly, it was so long ago, I don't remember. Um, I'm sure that it was difficult for me to do it because I was telling a director, person at a director level who was a man, that we're no longer going to do this. Like, you guys can do this. Now, I don't remember him balking much. I think he probably was thinking, well, it's about time. You're right. We don't need to do this. But there were things like that. So anyway, that got delegated to where it belonged. That got transferred to where it belonged. And I spent probably a good 6 months to a year going through everything that we did on our desks and getting the things that didn't belong to the departments that they belong to. Because here's what happens when people, maybe you help out a department. And so now you're doing some task that they should be doing, but they didn't have time. Pretty soon you own it, right? Pretty soon you own it. So how do I give it back? And we all want to be team players. I am not telling you not to be a team player. I want you to be a team player. I do. However, when you accept that role or that responsibility, you need to have the conversation of, how long is this going to happen? I'm totally up to helping, but this will go back to where it belongs, right? Like, let's be clear on this. Are you delegating this to my department because you no longer want to do it? Or are you asking for my help temporarily? Let's have that discussion before I accept it. That is a big one. So take a look, do a time audit, take a look at where you are spending your time and get rid of the low level things or the things that don't belong in your department. And then look at the things that you don't even know why you do it, and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Now I want you to track all that stuff because I want you to quantify how much time savings that you have provided to not only your role but the department, so that you can focus on more customer service focused or customer focused activities, or revenue generating activities, or cost savings activities, those types of things that help the greater good of the organization, whether it's helping the company or whether it's helping the customer. That is strategic thinking. Speak the language of the business. So know the KPIs. What are KPIs? Key performance indicators. Know what they are. Know what you should be tracking. Know what the higher levels are of KPIs are, and then how does that drill down into your department? What KPIs should you be tracking so that you can help contribute to the greater overall goals of the organization? Learn the goals. And if your organization isn't one that shares them with everybody, talk to your boss and say, look, I'm just curious. I'm more than curious. I want to know what it is, what our goals are, so that I can make sure that I am doing everything possible to achieve those goals as well. Right? Makes sense, right? Okay. Use numbers, impact statements. Like I said, I want you to track the cost savings, track the revenue generating, track how you're reducing throughput, whatever it might be. We do need to focus on metrics. So today, here's your Grace and Salt coaching moment. I want you to think about this. Being strategic isn't about having a seat at the table. It's about bringing insight to the table, right? It's one thing to get to the table. And I know that we're all like, whoo, I'm at the table. But then what are you going to do with it? What value are you bringing? What impact are you bringing? Because when you get to the table, you had just made the way for the next person to get to the table. When you promote out, or you decide to retire or whatever, who's the next person that looks like you, that is going to come to the table? So you want to be sure that you are impacting the overall organization by being at the table and contributing to it. So your action step, I want you to choose one recurring task this week, and I want you to ask, is this the best use of my time? Or is there a bigger problem I should be solving? Now, if your boss has said, I want you to do this, and your answer to the question is, this is not the best use of my time, then I want you to talk to your boss about it, because they may say, no, this is the best use of your time because of XYZ. But when you talk to your boss in that format, or in that way, you're going to be showing your boss that you're thinking strategically, you're thinking bigger than getting a task done. Okay, so action step, choose one reoccurring task this week and ask, is this the best use of my time, or is there a bigger problem I should be solving? I just want to go through these top tips to shift from tactical to strategic one more time. I want you to start with your why, right? Why does this matter to the business? Think three moves ahead. What will this impact downstream? Who needs to know? What comes next? Those are some questions you need to ask yourself. Stop doing things others can do. Delegate low level tasks. Look at what's on your desk and see what needs to be there and what should be either eliminated or moved to someplace else or delegated out. Speak the language of the business, know your KPIs, know the company's goals, know the department goals, be involved in those discussions. Even if you are not included, it's okay to ask your boss and understand what is it that you should be striving for. All right, so if this helped reframe how you think about leadership, then send it to a colleague who's ready to use it. And I want you to, download and subscribe and follow and share and do all those things, because the more we can share, the more people we can reach. So for your next level development, if you like what you heard today, I want you to check us out on graceandsaltleadership.com, or you can go to esther.graceandsaltleadership.com. You can find me on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Those are and then YouTube, my YouTube channel, which is where you may be watching this. But I just would really appreciate it, and learn more about our signature program, the Esther Project, where we help women gain confidence, serious business, gain confidence, learn how to speak up, step out, and make the impact that only they can make. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for hanging out on the top floor. If today's episode gave you something to think about or a little boost, share it with your friend and keep the momentum going. And hey, if you're ready to find your voice and lead with clarity and confidence, check out the Esther Project. It's our foundational program at Grace and Salt, and it's built for women like you who are ready to rise. You can learn more at graceandsaltleadership.com. I'll drop the link in the show notes, and remember, you don't have to lead like everyone else, just lead like you. All right, I'll see you next time.